Let me tell you a story about a cursed town that's always shrouded in darkness, no matter the time of day. There once was a quaint little town nestled in a valley that appeared normal from afar. It had winding roads, quiet alleys, and rows of houses so close together that their balconies almost touched. The locals called it Tenaze, which meant whispers in their language. But the only whispers that should have been heard were the ones carried on the evening breeze. For many years, the people of Tenaze had suffered in silence. They couldn't understand why shadows seemed to linger here longer than they should, and why the wind carried whispers in the night, even when no one was around. That was until one fateful autumn night, when the wind howled like a wounded beast, whipping fallen leaves into frenzied dances and shaking the very foundations of Tenaze. On that night, the electricity flickered in the houses on the northern edge of town, and in one of them, a young man named Elias had just gotten home late from the factory. His boots echoed against the narrow stone path as he walked. Soon he noticed that every streetlight he passed seemed to die the moment he stepped past it, leaving him in near darkness. He hurried on, casting his gaze at the ground. But as he moved from one pool of dim light to another, he felt a growing unease. The darkness between each lamp felt thick, almost alive, crawling closer with each step. Finally reaching his home, an old two-story structure with peeling paint. He paused, realizing that from the window on the second floor, he could swear he saw someone staring down at him. It was a face that should not have been there, too pale, too still, its eyes sunken black holes, staring, judging. But Elias lived alone. Still, he quickly bolted inside, his heart hammering in his chest. And as he climbed the stairs and flung open the bedroom door, he could have sworn he heard a sigh somewhere in the depths of the house. But when he went to check, he found nothing. However, the air was colder than it should have been, and he could feel goosebumps prickling at his skin. Shaking off his fears, he told himself it was exhaustion and went to bed. But he didn't notice the dark smear of something like ash clinging to the window frame. In the days that followed, people whispered of strange happenings. Livestock was found drained of blood but without a single wound. Children claimed to hear voices calling their names from empty alleys, and an old woman was found dead in her home, her face twisted in terror, and every mirror in her house shattered inward as though something had tried to crawl out. The authorities dismissed these as coincidences, accidents, or the foolish tales of overactive minds. But the people of Tenaze knew better, and in the coming days, Elias would come to realize that the horrors that befell their town were somehow connected to him. He began waking in the middle of the night to scratching sounds on his walls, as though claws raked against the plaster. Then, during the day, the shadows in his room no longer matched the furniture. They seemed to bend and stretch at unnatural angles, sometimes standing upright as though mocking his shape. And then one night, while he was half asleep, he heard a voice right next to his ear whisper, "You brought us back." And he knew then that what was happening in Tenaze was his fault. With that realization came the desperate need to fix what he had broken, and so he sought out the oldest resident of Tenaze, a recluse named Amara, who lived on the hill by the graveyard. She was known for her strange rituals and for keeping her windows covered in symbols no one else understood. When he told her what he had seen, her withered face grew pale. "The seals," she whispered, "they are breaking." Long ago, she explained, Tenaze was built upon the site of an ancient tragedy. Before the town, there had been a settlement of outcasts who practiced forbidden rites, trying to open a door to something beyond. The villagers of that time had turned on them, burning their bodies and burying the ashes beneath stone markers at the edges of the land. To seal the place, they carved protective wards into the stones, keeping the restless dead from returning. But over the centuries, those stones had been forgotten, some destroyed, some built over, their symbols erased. Without them, the dead were stirring again. So together, Elias and Amara raced against time to restore the seals. But with every passing day, the darkness in Tenaze grew stronger. The people became more desperate. Elias could feel their hopeless eyes on him, and he knew that whatever he did, he could never truly make up for what was done in the past. Now, I want you to imagine the rest of the story. What happened in the end? Did Elias manage to save Tenaze, or was it lost forever to the darkness? Let your imagination run wild and write a story based on what you think happened next. You can share your story in the comments below, and who knows, maybe your version of events will become part of the legend of Tenaze.